Oh, gosh. Boy, do you remember the first time you were on a big stage?
Yes, I do. I do. You know, it's so funny because with the Dave Matthews Band, we started in about '91, and it was like a very, it's just people talk about like overnight successes and stuff, and for us, from the time we started to the time that we sort of entered into the American mainstream, it was really only about a couple of years. But the overnight part happened over about 20-some years. All the practices as kids and the scales and the lessons and concerts and so forth in school, and it was a long night. But But as far as for the band, though, it happened pretty quickly. So when you ask, do I remember the first big show? Honestly, I have to say no, because things happened so quick. And it was like basically those first few years was like a blur. But I do remember one of the biggest shows we played, which was Giant Stadium. And when you're on stage, it really is huge. A lot bigger than you would imagine. And I was never so scared in my life. But oddly enough, though, when I went out on the stage, and looked around, it's really interesting because Giant Stadium is this big bowl shaped. And it kind of reminded me almost of like maybe a theater or amphitheater, and it had this like intimacy to it, but it was just really big intimacy. So I just sort of imagined that it was just like a really big club, and you play those first few notes, and you're all right.
Then you'll be okay. Yeah. As poets aren't used to Giant Stadium. And I was really shy. I was going to ask you that, but I'll let you go. But I was really shy, and when I started writing and publishing and everything, I just imagined a quiet life of the mind, and I would read. Perhaps if I had to, I would get up and give a poetry reading, but I really did not think I was ever going to be on a big stage. And as you say, these things, it happens overnight. It's a long night, because when I got the Pulitzer, I remember being terrified when I was told by my English chair that I'd gotten the Pulitzer, and my phone was unlisted, so the press couldn't find me. And he said, I'm getting a press conference together. And I said, I don't know how to give a press conference. And he said, you'll learn. And it's true, though. You learn about anything. But the first stage that really terrified me was in my hometown of Akron, Ohio. And they wanted to do a Rita Dove Day, which is also terrifying. And I remember standing in the wings, and the drama department gotten in on this. And it wasn't Giant Stadium. It was about 1,000 people like tonight, but they had decided to do this kind of "this is your life" thing. You had to walk from one spotlight to the next, and they had artifacts from my life, which and I was so terrified, and I stood there in the wings, and they had my parents as part of the artifacts of my life. And they were sitting in the wings waiting to get onto their spotlight, and they looked like two people waiting for the electric chair. That's what they were so scared. They weren't used to this. They weren't used to this either. All their friends in the audience, and when I looked at them, I was in one part of the wings, and I thought, I can't let them down. I mean, I can't. Nobody wants to see me fail. So, and I think of that moment every time I have to go out on stage. I say, you can't let anyone down, and then it was fine, almost.
Yeah. No, it's all through in my life. It's I'll tell you, in this town particularly, which is a very artistic town in every respect, in arts and craft, and music, and poetry, and so in drama. It's just I was lucky because I was very much nurtured along the way, and encouraged, and given lessons and so forth, and you know, I think about that. You know, you're talking about you don't want to let these people down. You know, and everything I do, I think about all the people who brought me here. You know, starting with my parents. You know, starting with my father who had to pay, you know, payments, and we weren't a rich family at all. You know, payments on like a, you know, $100 violin for me to play. But that was a precious gift that really did change my life. From all the teachers and neighbors and everyone who helped me and encouraged me, you know, those are the people that I don't want to let down. You know, and my wife and my two kids, you know, those are the people that I think of that I don't want to let down. And it does give you strength. It does give you strength to dig into yourself, to always strive. You know, these people have been behind me, and now I'm going to give them everything that I have.
Yeah, it changes the whole angle of things. When you decided on the violin, how old were you?
I was 11.
11. And did you ever get any back talk from your friends in the street because you were a black guy playing the violin?
Well, I was a big black guy playing the violin. So they weren't so rough on me as some others, but
I see. I see.
But yeah, there is a lot of you know, being from a black neighborhood and playing the violin is you know, is definitely a tough thing to do, and there were not many people in my neighborhood who did that. But the most amazing thing and the most gratifying thing that has happened to me over my life is I've seen, you know, some of my people I used to go to school with back in the day, you know, and they come up to me and they're so proud. You know, they're so proud of what I've done and what I've accomplished. And that makes me feel good, you know. Yeah. That makes me feel good that even going through maybe some of the ribbing here and there was worth it. You know, and it's just, you know, you stand true to your heart, and it all comes back around.
This is true. I needed you around when I was taking my cello home. I was not tall. And people didn't even understand what this thing was on this poor little black kid's back. I'm dragging it along. Oh, boy, yeah. But it is, I mean, it's an interesting thing because when I was growing up, my parents, too, were very supportive in the sense that, you know, if I loved to do it, and I chose this cello, and neither of them played an instrument, though they were musical, they just, you know, they were ready to lug me to every lesson and sit outside while I had the lesson and listen to all that scraping and stuff like that. It was just, yeah. And what you take as a child just for granted was a whole lot of love. Yeah. You know, it's a whole lot of love.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said that because it's the same thing with my family. You know, it's my parents, like I said, we were not rich at all. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say poor. You know, I mean, we did get by, but you know, we were rich in love, and we were rich in laughter. I mean, we laughed every day. You know, we had so much, you know, always had so much fun and laughed, you know, but we didn't have very much material things. But anything that I wanted to do, you know, when I told my parents I wanted to play the violin, you know, even though that was a lot of money to buy even a very inexpensive student violin, they said, yeah, well, you know, you can get one, and they got one for me, you know. You know, when I said I wanted to play music, I wanted to drop out of college and play music, you know, and they said that, you know, we're behind you, you know, whatever you want to do, you know, we are here behind you. And they were always supporting, and that makes such a difference when your parents are there behind you.
Yeah, it's a gift. Yeah.